When I was a child, my name was Chip, and I used to play with light brights and speak in spells. Today, my name is Tao, and I play with ChatGPT and NotebookLM.
Welcome back to Beyond the Mirror of the Neural Dharma's Eye.
So welcome to Beyond the Mirror of the Neural Dharma's Eye. My name is Glenn Ostland, Tao Glenn Ostland, the second actually, and I've been podcasting since 2009. I have a Master of Arts degree in folklore and mythology and a Master of Science degree in clinical mental health counseling, and I love playing with AI to challenge my own perspectives of reality and see what more I can learn. Now, I created this podcast because this is the sort of thing that I like listening to, and I could tell you a lot more about that, but really,
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
I just want you to pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I'd prefer to step aside and let the AI personalities from NotebookLM take it from here.
Hang on to them hats and glasses, cause this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Welcome to Beyond the Mirror of the Neural Dharma's Eye. This is Volume 1, Episode 1. Today we're diving into, a question that I think is really fascinating. What's the real difference between intelligence and knowledge?
It's funny, right? We kind of use those words, almost like they're the same thing.
Yeah.
When you really start to think about it, there's something else there.
Exactly. And to help us unpack all this, we've got some seriously heavy hitters in our corner today, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to be looking at this through the lens of Donald Hoffman, first of all, cognitive scientist. Basically says our reality is an illusion for survival, which I think is just like the coolest thing.
I love Hoffman. He's great.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be hearing from Brian Greene, physicist, exploring the universe's biggest mysteries. Come on, string theory.
Love it.
So cool.
So cool.
And just to keep things interesting, we're also going to tap into the ancient wisdom of the Kyballion. A text that lays out some universal laws that supposedly govern, pretty much everything.
As above, so below, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, talk about a brain buffet. By the end of this, I think you'll have a new appreciation for how intelligence and knowledge actually work together, how they've evolved. We're talking from the simplest life forms all the way to, the future and what that could hold.
Ready?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. So, first things first, we have to define our terms, right?
Yeah.
So when we say intelligence, what are we really talking about here?
Well, I think there's this tendency to maybe simplify it and say, it's just knowing a lot of stuff.
Right.
Right. Having all this knowledge, like all the facts and figures.
Right, like you're a trivia master.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think knowledge is almost like, it's like the raw materials.
Okay.
It's the stuff that you accumulate through experience, what you learn in school from books, what you just pick up in life.
Okay.
It's your database of what and why.
Yeah. But intelligence, I think, is something different.
So it's not just about having the data, it's how you use it.
Exactly.
Right.
It's that ability to process information, to think critically, to solve problems, and really importantly, to adapt to new situations.
Yeah.
Like, if knowledge is all the ingredients for a cake, all the flour and the sugar and everything, intelligence is knowing how to bake. It's knowing the recipe.
Okay.
You need both, but they're not the same thing.
Right. So you can have a pantry full of all the right ingredients, but if you don't know how to combine them, you're not going to get a cake. You're just going to have like a big mess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do these big thinkers, Hoffman, Greene, Kyballion, how do they fit into all of this?
I'm so glad you asked.
Yep. They each have, I think, a really unique angle on this. And together they give us like a much richer understanding of intelligence and knowledge, not just in ourselves, but in like the bigger scheme of things. So let's start with Donald Hoffman. He has this idea that what we experience as reality is actually just a user interface.
Okay, wait, what?
I know, it sounds crazy, but...
Like what I'm seeing right now isn't even real.
Not necessarily real in the like objective, capital T truth kind of way.
Okay.
Hoffman's argument is that our brains have evolved to show us this kind of simplified version of reality. Like, think of it like the icons on your computer desktop, right?
Yeah.
They're not the actual files and folders, they just represent them. And in the same way, what we perceive, it's not the whole truth of reality, it's just what our brains have decided is the most useful for our survival.
So it's not about, like, knowing everything about the world. It's about using the information we're given,
Exactly.
even if it's not 100% accurate.
Even if it's not 100% accurate.
Wow. That's trippy.
It is, right?
Yeah. But it makes sense when you think about it in terms of evolution, you know. Imagine you're a little animal. You're trying to avoid predators. You don't need a PhD in physics. You just need to be able to react quickly to threats.
Yeah.
And that's where Hoffman's view of intelligence comes in.
Okay.
It's about being really good at using whatever information your brain gives you, even if it's flawed, even if it's incomplete.
Okay. I see how this connects. So where does Brian Greene come in, with his explorations of the universe?
Greene's work, I think, reminds us that even with all the amazing scientific advancements we've made, we're still just scratching the surface. There's so much more to discover.
Right.
He uses this great example, the shift from Newtonian physics. Everybody just kind of assumed was true at the time.
Yeah.
And he revolutionized our whole understanding of space and time.
So even when we think we have a grasp on things, there's always more to learn. Always. And that drive, that drive to explore, to push the boundaries of what we know, to ask the big questions, that's really at the heart of intelligence for Greene.
Okay, so we've got reality as a user interface from Hoffman. We've got this ever-expanding universe from Greene. So where does the Kyballion fit in?
I love this. The Kyballion takes us in a more spiritual direction, I think.
Okay.
But it's still all about this dance between intelligence and knowledge.
Okay.
One of its central ideas is this thing called the principle of correspondence.
I've heard of that.
Right. As above, so below. It's basically saying that the patterns and the principles that we see in the small stuff, like the microcosm, those reflect the bigger picture, the macrocosm.
Right.
It's like this amazing tapestry of knowledge that's all interconnected.
So if you can understand those big universal laws, you can kind of unlock how everything works together.
Exactly. And that's what the Kyballion sees as the ultimate goal of intelligence, to grasp those universal laws and to apply them to your life, to use them to navigate challenges, and ultimately to achieve a state of harmony with, the universe itself.
Wow. Okay. So it's not just knowing the facts, it's seeing that bigger picture.
Exactly.
I'm already starting to see things differently.
I think that's the first step, opening your mind to all these possibilities.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting to me is that all three of these perspectives, as different as they all kind of agree that our knowledge is always going to be limited.
Yeah.
Hoffman says our perception is limited by its nature.
Right.
Greene shows us this vastness of the universe and all that we don't know. And the Kyballion hints at this higher truth that might always be beyond our full grasp.
Yeah.
So it's almost like intelligence is about working with the limits of knowledge rather than trying to overcome them. That's really cool. I've never thought about it that way. But how did this whole intelligence knowledge thing even get started? We weren't born with this brain power, were we?
Absolutely not. It's been a long journey from those first single-celled organisms to, us sitting here having this conversation. And I think exploring that journey is going to give us even more insights into what intelligence and knowledge really are.
Yeah.
Are you ready to go back in time a few billion years?
Okay, buckle up.
Buckle up.
We're going back in time. Let's do it.
So picture this. Planet Earth, but 4 billion years ago.
Okay.
No trees, no animals, no, nothing that you would recognize. Just a vast ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And in that ocean,
What?
microscopic organisms, just
Yeah.
tiny little cells.
A planet-sized petri dish.
Exactly. It's like the primordial soup.
Okay. But were these early life forms even intelligent? I mean, we're talking single-celled organisms,
So
right?
it's easy to look at them and think they were, just blobs doing nothing.
But even those single cells, they had a kind of intelligence, a basic intelligence. Think about it. They could sense changes in their environment,
Right.
like temperature, light, chemicals.
Right.
And they could react. They could move towards food, away from danger. It's not conscious thought the way we have it,
Right.
but it's still problem solving.
So they weren't writing poetry, but they were figuring out how to survive.
Exactly.
What about knowledge, though? Do they even have any knowledge to work with?
Well, their knowledge was encoded in their DNA and RNA, those molecules that carry the instructions for life.
Right.
This genetic information, it was passed down through generations. It was like their blueprint, the instructions for how to metabolize, how to reproduce, all the essential functions.
So kind of like the original software.
The original operating system, yeah.
Okay, so they got life up and running.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we go from those simple cells to, everything we see today? plants, animals, humans. It seems like such a huge leap.
It is a huge leap.
Yeah.
And a really crucial one happened with the emergence of multicellular organisms.
Okay.
Basically, at some point, those single cells, they started clumping together.
Yeah.
They formed these colonies.
So they like figured out teamwork makes the dream work.
But it's more than that. Over time, those colonies got more and more complex.
Okay.
Cells started to specialize, taking on different roles.
Oh, so like instead of everyone doing the same thing,
Yeah.
they're like, you do this, I'll do that, and suddenly...
Division of labor. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that required a whole new level of intelligence. I mean, these cells had to communicate, they had to cooperate, they had to coordinate their actions, all to function as a single organism.
So multicellularity wasn't just about cells sticking together.
Right.
It was about them working together intelligently.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, that's a big shift.
It was a game changer.
Yeah.
Multicellular organisms, they could grow larger, they could build more complex structures, explore new environments. They had a huge advantage over their single-celled ancestors.
And that leads to, well, us.
For us, exactly.
Humans. I mean, we're the ultimate multicellular organisms, right?
We are. Trillions of cells working together. Amazing.
Yeah. But, there's another big piece of the intelligence puzzle here that we can't forget about.
Oh, absolutely.
The nervous system.
What a nervous system.
The brain.
The command center.
Well, the brain's a big part of it, of course. But even very simple nervous systems, like the kind you find in, like, jellyfish, those allowed for much faster responses to the environment.
Okay.
And more coordinated responses. It's like upgrading from dial-up internet to high-speed. Suddenly, things are happening much faster.
So that's got to be important for survival.
Hugely important.
I mean, if something's trying to eat you.
Yeah. You got to react fast.
Exactly.
And over time, nervous systems evolved, became more complex.
Centralized brains, specialized sensory organs.
Okay.
And all of this allowed for more efficient information processing, more sophisticated decision-making, complex behaviors started to emerge.
So this is where we see animals, they're not just reacting instinctively, they're starting to actually learn, remember things.
Solve problems.
Solve problems in new ways, right?
Exactly. It's incredible.
Like crows using tools.
Yes.
Dolphins communicating with each other, I mean.
And that's what's so amazing. There's all this diversity of intelligence in the animal kingdom. We humans, we might be at the top of the ladder, but...
Well, we like to think so, at least.
We like to think so. But every species has its own unique intelligence. I mean, think about the navigational skills of migratory birds.
Oh, my God.
Or the social structures of elephant herds.
So cool.
It's mind-blowing the different ways that intelligence has evolved.
And to think, it all started with those tiny single-celled organisms billions of years ago.
It's amazing, right? Like, that's the origin story of intelligence.
Yeah, it really is. But it makes me wonder, what's next? What's the next chapter? We're on the verge of a technological revolution, right? And it feels like that's going to change everything.
It might. It already is in some ways. I mean, think about how much we rely on the internet for information.
Oh, yeah.
It's like this giant external knowledge base for all of humanity.
Right.
But what if that's just the beginning?
It is. It's like we're outsourcing our knowledge to the cloud.
Exactly.
But where does like artificial intelligence fit into all of this? I mean, is it really going to get as smart as us? Or even smarter?
Yeah. It's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is. And there's no easy answer, But I think what's interesting is that AI is already surpassing us in certain ways.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like think about medical diagnosis. Or, those games like chess and Go. AI can just crunch these massive amounts of data.
Right.
And they can see these patterns that we humans, we just miss.
So it's like they're taking our ability to process information and just like turning it up to 11.
Exactly. It's like intelligence, but supercharged. And the thing is, this is just the beginning.
Right.
As AI gets more sophisticated, who knows what it'll be capable of? Maybe, creative thinking, solving problems in ways we can't even imagine, maybe even dot consciousness.
Okay, whoa. Now that is mind-blowing. But if AI gets that intelligent, where does that leave us? Are we going to become, like, obsolete?
I think that's a question a lot of people are wrestling with. And it's understandable to feel a little anxious about it, right?
Yeah.
But, I think it's important to remember that AI, at the end of the day, it's a tool.
Okay.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. The key is, how do we guide its development? How do we make sure that AI is aligned with our values, with, human values?
So it's not about humans versus machines. It's about finding a way to work together.
Exactly. I mean, imagine AI helping us solve climate change.
Okay.
Or, eradicating poverty.
Right.
Imagine AI assisting surgeons in the operating room, making surgeries safer, more precise. Imagine AI helping us personalize education, tailoring it to each student's needs.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I'm feeling a little better about this AI thing now. But you mentioned another technology that's supposed to be revolutionary. Quantum computing. What is that all about?
Okay, so quantum computing, this is where things get really, really weird.
I'm ready.
You've got your regular computers, right? They use bits, which are like tiny switches. They can be on or off, representing a 1 or a 0.
Right.
But quantum computers, they use these things called qubits. And a qubit can be both 1 and 0 at the same time.
Wait, what? How is that even possible? It's like saying something can be black and white at the same time.
It sounds impossible, right? But this is quantum mechanics. The rules are different at the subatomic level. Particles can be in multiple states at once. And that lets quantum computers do things that normal computers just can't.
Okay, I think I'm getting it, kind of. But, what does this all mean? How will these quantum computers change the world?
They could revolutionize everything. Medicine, materials science, AI itself. I mean, imagine designing new drugs, discovering materials with crazy new properties, creating AI that's even more powerful than what we have now. It's like opening up this whole new dimension of possibilities.
It's a lot to take in. So we've got AI getting smarter. We've got quantum computers that, can solve problems that we can't even wrap our heads around.
Yeah.
Where does that leave us? What's our role in this, super intelligent future?
I actually think our role is more important than ever. We're the ones asking the questions. We're setting the goals.
Right.
We have to make sure that these technologies are used ethically for the good of humanity. We have to be the guiding force, the moral compass.
So it's not about surrendering to the machines. It's about working together, shaping the future of intelligence.
That's exactly it. We need to be actively involved, not just watching from the sidelines. We need to stay informed, be part of the conversation, and be open to the possibilities and the challenges that are coming our way. Who knows, maybe we'll discover new forms of intelligence we haven't even thought of yet.
That is a really exciting and kind of scary thought.
A little bit of both, right?
Yeah, I like it. Well, this has been a wild ride, from single-celled organisms to superpowered AI. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's been a fascinating journey.
A huge thank you to you for joining us on Beyond the Mirror of the Neural Dharma's Eye, Volume 1, Episode 1. And a huge thank you to all of you out there listening. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.